All right. Well, welcome everybody to episode 3 of the Grumpy Guy BJJ podcast. Got Rob here with me again. Rob, what's going on, buddy?
Yo, what's up, Dave?
Yeah, man. So another week. Just had Thanksgiving pass by. How was your Thanksgiving? You got to go over with a buddy of ours, and well, you made a special dessert. Yeah, that's right. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so our buddy Nate invited me over a couple weeks ago, and for some reason when he sent me that text, I replied back right away. I was like, hey, you guys like pecan pie? I'll make a pecan pie. He's like, sure. And then I started thinking, I have never made a pecan pie in my entire life. Why did I decide to do this? So then I kind of went into panic mode, like, oh shit, let's do some research. So I started finding some recipes, and I made a practice pie a couple weekends ago. It didn't turn out too bad. And then I made the official one for yesterday, and I didn't end up with food poisoning. I haven't gotten any nasty texts from Nate this morning or anything about food poisoning. So
no, it's good. Awesome.
I'll call it a success.
Good, man. Yeah. How's the rest of the dinner there?
Good. We had duck.
Duck? Ooh, that's cool.
I had duck and some asparagus and some sweet potatoes. It's pretty good, man.
Cool, man. Yeah.
How about you?
Just regular old family Thanksgiving. Had the turkey. Kelly cooked the turkey, man. It was good. Thanks, baby. And yeah, it was good, man. We had family over, so just a lot of sitting around with embarrassing comments from the parents here and there. So I'm sure everybody can relate to that. But they're families. My grandma always said they're ours, so you gotta love them. But it was a lot of fun. It was good, man. But really, the good news for me was I got to wrestle. And that was awesome. I was very thankful for that. I had to take like a little over 3 weeks off because I had a groin injury or just problem that turned into an injury, and finally had to take time off. So, man, it had been over 3 weeks since I got in a roll.
Has it really been 3 weeks?
Over 3 weeks. It was Adam. I went in and rolled with Adam. When Adam left his last class, I went in specifically for that. I rolled with him, and that was it. And I quit. I was like, I'm not rolling. And so, yeah, that was almost 4 weeks ago.
You were disciplined enough to not wrestle for 3 weeks?
I haven't wrestled for over 3 weeks, yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah, well, it hurt, man. Yeah, so, I'm a terrible coach because I'm a great coach. I'm a terrible client because I don't take my own advice, and so it was one of those things where I've joked with a couple people about this since then where, you get an injury. So you modify your jiu-jitsu a little bit, and sometimes injuries can be an opportunity to, just kind of learn something, or there's always opportunities to learn things from everything. And so I tried modifying my jiu-jitsu, and so I started with like my right adductor was getting sore, and that's the one that everybody's always pushing down on when they're trying to open your closed guard, they're trying to pass that way. And so I started trying to force things the other way and change my game up a little bit, not use closed guard as much, and so that helped. But then my left adductor started to hurt, so I tried to modify it again and running out of options at this point. But and then it just kind of got worse from there and turned into like a full-blown groin thing. And it was like, well, I can't really not squeeze. Like, squeezing is a pretty important part of jiu-jitsu. And so I just had to just admit that I had a freaking injury that I couldn't modify my jiu-jitsu around and let heal. So had to take the time off, but I still drilled and kept the mind busy with watching videos and trying to keep things sharp mentally that way. But yeah, man, it was tough. So I was so pumped to be able to wrestle yesterday, and just there's nothing like it. I remember after that round that we had, I was just laying there staring at the ceiling, freaking breathing hard, ears are ringing, and just like, dude, I missed this. This is so, but, so yeah, no, that was a lot of fun, man. It was good. It's a good time getting together with everybody rolling before Thanksgiving yesterday. But, so anyways, glad to be back. Gonna have to take it slowly getting back because I don't want to go through that again. Yeah. But the maximum mobility stuff, that stuff we talked in the first episode, been doing that stuff religiously since I got back from that seminar, and the frog stretch and just all those things. And so that's been helping a ton. So just every day spending time working on my mobility which I did before, but never like as focused. Like now I've got like a routine that I do every day that goes through a lot of the stuff and you know, the muscle groups and areas and stuff like that. So, so yeah, just been focusing on that, and then some ISOs and some walking and stuff like that, and there you go. It's been my routine for the last few weeks. I couldn't even run, man. You know what I mean? Like that's when you know it's bad, when you're like functionally, you're like I remember, it's funny. Remember the original Fight Club movie?
Oh, of course.
Of course, yeah. Right? And I remember I'm sitting in the theater watching it, and this was back during my bodybuilding days. And not that I was ever a bodybuilder, I thought I was a bodybuilder, right? So you're trying to work out like a bodybuilder, so you're just beating the shit out of yourself, thinking that that's a workout. I remember having this moment where I was like, you know, like my legs hurt so bad right now from my leg workout that like Ed Norton character could have kicked my ass. And I don't know, like there was that moment where like this isn't functionally working for me here, you know, and so it's kind of like that where it's like, you know, it's just not, you know, functionally working for me. But so anyways, so yeah, kind of lost my train of thought there talking about Fight Club. Such a fucking kick-ass movie,
I was wondering, I was like, all right, man, what good life lessons are we going to get from from Fight Club? Then it went off the rails a bit. So.
Yeah, just a bit, man. Yeah, I know. So yeah, whatever I was talking about, it had something to do with that.
It made sense.
But,
No, I kind of had that experience recently, like on a smaller scale. You know, I'm a little bit banged up right now. And so I took, like, Sunday, I didn't do anything except for mobility. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, man, I didn't do anything, like, strenuous. I didn't go in and train. I didn't ISOs. All I did is I went to work, did my mobility shit. And Wednesday morning, I woke up, and I was feeling pretty good. You know, of course, I still got some injuries, but I did my ISOs. I did a good session. I did whatever. I did a good ISO session before. And man, I felt freaking great. Like just after I got done and was in my car driving to work, it just kind of hit like, dude, I feel freaking good. Like it was 3 days off from nothing too strenuous. And sometimes you forget you just kind of need to do that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
yeah.
you got to chill out once in a while. You just got to kind of let everything just kind of even out, you know, because I got a few little things I'm dealing with, and man, just those 3 days was freaking nice, man. Like I felt super good after doing a little session on Wednesday morning. And
yeah.
So yeah, sometimes you just got to stop being a meathead.
Yeah, trying to beat yourself up.
Yeah.
That's what it was. That's right. When I realized I couldn't run, I'm like, this isn't working. It was one of those moments where I was like, whatever I'm doing right now, my pro is not working. Like functionally, like if Ed Norton's character came out and tried to kick my ass, I couldn't even run away. He can still kick my ass. So anyways, all right. So today on the podcast, we had a couple things we wanted to talk about that all kind of tie into each other. We were originally going to talk about like kind of competition and confidence on the mat, and then we recently had some promotions at our gym, some well-deserved promotions, and so that kind of ties into it too, like kind of belt promotions and all those things. And so because those things are kind of, at least in my mind, they can get your the color on your belt can get a little fuzzy with like, is it competition, or is it like, what is it that makes a blue belt or makes a purple belt, or makes you ready for a promotion, and so is it competition, or is it something else, and where does your confidence on the mat come from with that? And so there's a lot of layers that get in when you start talking about stuff like that. So anyways, we just thought it'd be kind of a good subject to dive into today and talk about. So and as usual, Professor Rob has notes. So
hey, I saw you were taking notes this morning too.
I was trying to catch up. Literally like 30 seconds before we started recording the podcast, I'm trying to write some notes, and so my first note was like, what are we talking about again today? So I write that down, and then like jotted one other thing down. So that's my notes. But we got some, Rob, start us off, man. What's your thoughts on the subject?
Man, where do we want to start with it? Hey, since you just brought up promotions, we'll start there. You know as well as I do that no one is really ever ready for that promotion for the most part.
No,
I mean, there's exceptions to the rule, but whenever you get promoted,
they're the outliers.
Yeah, when you get promoted to a new belt, you almost never feel ready.
No,
you know what I mean.
You got to grow into it for sure.
Yeah, there's some growing into it.
You choke on it for a month or
so
two.
It gets
or more.
a little. It's a funny mindset to be in because you don't feel ready, but you got to trust in your coaches. They're not going to promote you just to promote you.
Yeah,
and
or they shouldn't be.
They shouldn't be. I mean, I'm sure there's gyms and schools out there that do that, but not here. I know it's a tough thing, man, because I've never felt ready for that next belt. And I got promoted to black belt in February, and dude, I still don't feel ready for it, man. It's scary.
That's
so I don't have a good answer for it. You got to trust in it. I think that's where it is. You just got to believe. And if your coach promoted you, you got to have faith that he's not just doing it to be a nice guy.
Yeah.
And if anybody knows Coach Kevin, he's not just doing things to be nice.
No, you got to earn
that's not his. That's not his. Standard operating procedure. So yeah, you just growing into it, and I think that's it. You got to figure that out.
Yeah. Well, I think that's there's growing into it is such a big thing, man. Yeah, I remember when I got my purple belt, it was hilarious because I got promoted and I definitely wasn't ready for it because at our gym stripes are a semi-regular affair.
Sometimes
it happens, sometimes they don't. And honestly, that's kind of another thing, right? If you're after a certain point, like if you're doing jiu-jitsu for the stripes and you're doing it for the belt, like you're doing it for the wrong reasons, right? And so, like stripes don't really matter as much, and everybody knows that. But there is like the traditional, you get 4 stripes and then you're ready for your next belt. And so, I had actually at the time only had 3 stripes on my blue belt. I've been training for a while because, like I said, like Kevin doesn't hand things out just to be nice. Like you earn whatever you get from him, which is great. But so I actually got my 4th stripe and then immediately got promoted to purple belt, right after that. You were there, man.
I don't remember.
Dude, we were there with Rolly. You were the only other one that knew. You said that, like, you're all, like, ready for me. You're like, dude, you should have seen the look on your face. Because I literally was like, I took a step back. Like, that was my reaction when like, Kevin, because he started talking about, like, belt promotions don't always make sense. Oh,
that's right. Because didn't he gave you your stripe, and then he sent you back in line.
He sent me back in line, and then he just started giving a little talk about like belt promotions not always making sense and stuff like that.
That's right. I do remember that.
And then he's like, with all that said, James, come here, get your purple belt. And I was like, literally, man, like my reaction was to take like a couple steps backwards because I was like, what? Because I remember thinking like as I was getting my 4th stripe, I was thinking like, okay, I still got at least a few more months with you, baby. I'm talking to my blue belt, and we got some more time together here. And so I literally like that was my thought when I got my 4 stripes. So when he was like, come get your purple belt, I was like, no, what the hell? And so, yeah, I was not feeling like totally ready for it. And then, but again, like you said, like I knew if Kevin was giving it to me, and our buddy Rolly was there, so I was like, if Rolly's like, obviously. I'm sure you ran it by him, and Rolly like at least gave it a thumbs up on some level, like and so knowing that those 2 dudes were on board with it gave me some confidence, like you said, like my coaches are behind it, and so I kind of thought that, but immediately like a month or 2 later went to Lance's place to train for a week, and Lance, our buddy, who's got a Conquest BJJ in Maryland. That place is full of killers, like, really high-level jiu-jitsu, really great gym, great competition team. And so, I show up, like, with this brand-new shiny purple belt.
Stiff belt, all brand new.
Yeah, all brand new, like, not fully confident and ready, with it to begin with. And I show up, and you're, like, the friend of the coach and everybody. And so, everybody was nice, but how it goes. Like they're gonna train hard. Like people show up to our gym and they got a little color on their belt, and it's like, hey man, like, welcome to the gym. That's how you welcome people. Yeah. So I just fully expected it, and it was great. But it was, man, it was like I remember texting Kevin after that first night because I just was getting destroyed by omoplatas, and I was just like, we had like a freaking hour-long text conversation into the night with like, what do I do to stop happening and blah blah blah, and he was real good with giving me some advice, and so, but yeah, man, I remember just being like, oh shit, like because you don't want to let your coach down too. You don't want to be like, oh man, people gonna be thinking like, who gave this joker a freaking purple belt or whatever, So you try not to think about it, but there is that pressure there too when you get promoted. So it takes a little bit to kind of grow into the belt and do it, but just having confidence that it's going to happen. It's just like anything else in jiu-jitsu. You just keep putting in the work, man. Chopping wood and carrying water and having faith in the process and knowing that like one day you're going to be like, okay, all right, like I'm comfortable with where I'm at and with my jiu-jitsu. And again, it's like, it's such a personal journey with that, but it's hard when you start letting those outside influences talk to you too much, but there's that balance, because if you weren't motivated by that, because we were both reading this book, the Upside to Your Dark Side, and so like if you didn't have like uncomfortableness in your life, like if you truly didn't care, if there wasn't anything that drove you to be uncomfortable, like you wouldn't care enough to try and become better, you know what I mean? So I tell people, like, because being a strength coach, man, I see it. You show somebody a new exercise and they get frustrated, and I got to remind people, like, man, it's good. You're getting frustrated because you care. You just can't let the frustration turn into like anger and self-pity and things that start to block the learning process, and realize that when that ego is whispering in your ear and you start listening to it, you're not listening to the lessons that you can learn from the situation at hand. And so. But so, anyways, yeah.
No, I'm glad you kind of ended on that, like the frustration. Because we're talking about promotions, you see that with people, and that now is what I mean. Like people maybe feel they're ready for the next belt or their next promotion, and they're not getting it, and you see that they let it discourage them.
Yeah.
Which, for me, I kind of have a hard time relating to that. Being an adult. Like, why you so hung up on that? But I can kind of get it. Like, we've seen it.
Yeah.
We've seen it personally. Both you and I have. And I've really tried to put myself in those people's shoes just to see where they're at. Like, process what they're thinking. Why are they so stuck on it? Don't worry about that, man. You got to keep, you said consistency. You just got to keep showing up. And just show up. Put in the work, and it'll come.
And trust your coach.
You got to trust.
It's like the opposite. Like if you got promoted, you need to trust that you were ready for it, and if you're not getting promoted, you need to trust
that you're not ready for
it. There's a reason, and you should be talking to your coach. You should be talking to the higher level belts that you train against, and be asking them like, look, man, like what do you think? What do you see? What do you think I need to do? I think that's like an important part with that, but. That's being confident enough to ask questions and open yourself up. Like, assume that, like, you're wrong, not that you're right and everybody's not seeing it the right way. So,
no, that's important. I'm glad you said that. That's a good question to ask. Like, if you do feel you're ready for that next belt and you haven't got it yet, ask your coach. It's like, hey, man, I think I'm ready. Where are some holes in my game? What could I work on? Just, ask those questions. If somebody came to me and asked me that question, maybe if I've trained with them a lot, I could give them an answer right away. But it might be one of those things to where I take that question, cool. Let me sit with that for a couple weeks. Let me watch you train. Let me train with you, and then I'll give you some stuff to work on. I think that would be a more honest answer. Because of course you can just give the basic. Hey, work on the basics. Do this.
Yeah.
But to really, as you're getting more advanced in jiu-jitsu, ask that question. If you really feel you're ready, ask that question. And also, I was making this mistake when I got promoted to brown belt. Dude, I can't remember who I was talking to. I was at another school training, and I was talking to one of their black belts, and I had just gotten promoted to brown, and he overheard my conversation with a couple people in that gym that I just kept saying, I don't feel I'm a brown belt yet. I'm not ready. I just kept, beating a dead horse saying, hey, I'm not ready. I'm not ready. And he's like, I understand, you feel like that, but he's like, be mindful of you saying that or thoughtful of it, because it's almost, it could be seen as a little disrespectful to your coach. It's okay to feel like maybe you're not ready, but for you to just, constantly be like, oh, I'm not this level yet. I'm not this level yet. That's, there's some subcontext there that's almost saying, I don't trust in my coach's decision to promote me. And I never thought about that.
I never thought about that either.
And he brought it to my attention, and I was like, oh, I am kind of being an asshole about that.
Yeah.
He's not just going to, in jiu-jitsu, people just don't get promoted.
No.
By and large.
For the most part. Especially the further along you get.
And so it's okay. I think it's okay to feel like that. But like you said, don't let those feelings completely consume you and distract you from the goal, the lessons that could be learned.
Yeah.
Man, that book is awesome. The Upside to Your Dark Side. You guys read it. I'll put it in the show notes or something. I'll type it in there. The author, I'm about halfway through it, a little bit more. Man, it's so good. A lot of us always run from those uncomfortable thoughts and uncomfortable feelings.
Yeah.
Man, there's lessons to be learned in those. And it's okay to get frustrated. It's okay to get angry.
Yeah, it's fun.
But you can't let that run everything.
Yeah.
You can't let that be what's running your operating system.
Right, yeah.
It's okay. Okay, if you're having some, for lack of, screwed up emotions or thoughts about something, it's probably because you're maybe not making the best decisions. That could be.
Yeah.
You got to think about that. Okay, why is this pissing me off so bad? Or why am I frustrated about this? That's all on you.
Yeah.
That's all on you.
Yeah.
Switch your perspective. Like, okay, this is pissing me off. Well, fucking do something about it, man.
Yeah.
No one's going to do something for you.
Right, yeah.
You know what I mean? If you come to me to help make, hoping I'm going to make you feel better, you're coming to the wrong fucking person.
I know, man. Yeah, I know what you mean, man. It's almost like if you can get someone to admit that your situation sucks, that you win.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's like, no.
You don't win anything just because I'm like, yeah, your situation sucks. And man, I'll be honest with you, I totally remember. That was like I had to keep remembering that as a white belt, because I just kept getting freaking whipped on, and it was definitely a frustrating process, but you just got to remember that you're putting in the time and the effort, and it'll pay off eventually. But so
it's a process.
Yeah, man,
it really is. And I think what we're talking about, it goes into where you see a lot of people that quit. A lot of people that quit, you see a lot at blue belt. For some reason, that's like that trend. Your blue belt time at blue belt before you get that purple, that crushes so many people mentally, emotionally. I have some ideas why. I think one of the big ideas that I have, one of the ideas I have is that your improvements stop being these huge leaps. And it goes with anything. When you're learning a new skill, when you're first learning a new activity, whatever it is, your improvements are huge. Every day you show up at the gym like, man, boom, you level up. Boom, you level up. Boom, you level up. And then you start getting to blue belt, those jumps aren't nearly as big. And especially when you start getting towards the end of your blue belt, almost purple, those jumps aren't nearly as big. They're little tweaks.
Yeah.
And you're going to have a couple weeks to where, yes, you make some massive improvements, but then you're going to have weeks to where you kind of dip back down, where you're trying to learn some new principles or some new things, and you almost feel like you're going backwards. People that you used to just run through are now giving you trouble, but maybe you're meeting them in the different place of their curve. Maybe they're on this uptick where they're seeing jiu-jitsu better than you were, and they're going up, and you're having some trouble, so you're coming back down, and then it just frustrates people.
Yeah.
Oh, man, it happens. It's a journey, man. Jiu-jitsu's it's not a sprint.
It's not a linear line.
No,
either,
it's not
man.
a linear line. It's not a sprint. And you see so many people get frustrated with that, and it's okay to be frustrated. But channel that frustration, learn your lessons from it.
Yeah,
just keep going, just keep moving forward.
Yeah, you just got not let it derail you, So I think for me it's funny when you're talking about, not like the mindset of people quitting. Like I was doing a martial art in high school. It was like a punching and kicking, like Taekwondo type martial art, and I actually did quit because I felt like my coach wasn't promoting me fast enough, and my ego was kind of getting in my way. And yeah, man, it was funny. I'm a freaking, you're in high school. It's the ego's. I don't even know what the hell an ego is, But I had started. There was another guy in the class, is what it was, and he was a little bit younger than I was, and he had started a little less than a year before I had, and so, But I was catching up to him, and I felt like, I was getting, closer to him, and I should be promoted to be closer to him, and my coach was kept reminding me to worry about myself and work on the basics and stuff like that. And so, there were other things going on. I wasn't just like, I'm just out of here. There was like some other life situation things that made it a little difficult for me to keep going in, and I just kind of used that as an excuse. But really, my real reason was I just had lost my motivation because I just let my ego and the promotions and the external recognition drive why I was doing it, and I always regretted that, looking back on it. So for me, I have that to kind of that failure, I guess, to look back on, and it's definitely helped me in sometimes, because it's a super frustrating journey. And you just have to I remind myself there's been times when I was just, I'm like, man, you've been down this road before. How that the frickin' voice whispering in your ear doesn't have your best intentions at heart. You need to just frickin' recognize your ego starting to talk to you and tell it to shut the fuck up, and just keep putting in the work, which isn't easy, but it's just, that's the key, man. That's what it is. And just being open to, radically open-minded is really a tough concept for people, because again, they want to be defensive about themselves and their jiu-jitsu and stuff like that. And so, and this kind of ties into competition a little bit, because I think competition is one of those things that makes that line blurry for a lot of people with the promotions, because especially as you advance, you'll find people who are really good at competing, but they're not necessarily their jiu-jitsu's not well-rounded. Their jiu-jitsu's not real solid in certain areas. You push them out of their pathway, and you start to find holes and stuff in their game. And so, but people can get, confused with, or, the results. They're like, man, I'm doing really well at competition. Why am I not being promoted faster? When it's well, when was the last time, that you submitted someone from your back? If, you're a really good wrestler and you take people down and just get a 2-on-1 from the top and Kimura people or whatever. And you know what I mean? And so there's that fine line between, recognizing success at competition or not having success, because you don't have to be a really successful competitor. I'm not a super successful competitor. I've got a perfect 500 record, which is my claim to fame. Really. So, but I feel like my overall jiu-jitsu is pretty good. I feel like there's a difference between being a really good competitor and being really good at jiu-jitsu, and you have people that cross over both ways. And I think that, you need to be good at, or I think everybody should compete at least, a couple times in their jiu-jitsu career, just because there's something to that experience and something to be gained from it. But, yeah, I don't know, man. I think it can get fuzzy. I think especially at the lower belts, because you'll white belt and blue belt, again, you can get people that have some sort of really freak physical attribute. They're super strong, or they're, super flexible, or they're, they've got something that's just, really makes them a super outlier, with some physical attribute, or, they've got a real heavy wrestling background if they're a guy, and they're able to, use that. And so you're able to have really good success, I think, at the early belts with relying a lot on those physical attributes, but as you progress, you know, you run into other freaks, and so the technique starts to become more important too. You know, it's like anything else. Like, you know, you can be a great local high school, you know, player, whatever, you know, sports player, and you know, as you get to the pros, man, it's like, well, everybody's that good, you know, and so you need to make sure you're filling in all these holes. But if you don't recognize that, like, wow, I was kind of getting by a little bit. Like I tell people coming in all the time, man, your biggest strength is going to be your biggest weakness. And if you don't recognize that early on, it's going to haunt you, because you're going to rely on that strength early on. And if you over rely on it and don't realize it, like, you're not going to develop other parts of your game. And then as you progress, you're going to find, like, wow, I got these giant holes I got to go back and backfill to get to the point where my coach is ready for me to be promoted to a purple belt or a brown belt or whatever it may be. So I don't know, man. I mean, that's just kind of my thoughts. I've only been doing jiu-jitsu for 5 years. I mean, I do have a lot of experience working with, you know, high-level competitors in mountain biking, so I see a lot of crossover with kind of the mindsets and what burns people out who have early success versus people who are able to sustain the success long-term. And so there's a lot of carryover with the mindsets and stuff it takes with that. But you've been doing this for a lot longer than I have, man. You got a lot more competition experience than I have. So what's your take on all this?
I agree that competition, I think it's important. I think it's really important, because you can not only just straight up test your jiu-jitsu to see where you're at, but it teaches you a lot about yourself too. Because it's nerve-wracking.
Oh yeah.
You know, it is, because you're getting out there, you're challenging yourself, you're in front of people. No one likes to lose, man. No one likes to lose. It's a shitty feeling.
Dude, I tell people, like, I almost threw up from my first match, man.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I literally, like, it was the scariest thing I've ever done in my life. Like, you know, dude, mountain biking wise, like, man, I've jumped, like, 40-foot, you know, doubles on my mountain bike, like, dropped off big cliffs. Like, I've dropped into some gnarly stuff where, like, if things went wrong, I was going to get seriously physically hurt. And I've never been as terrified as I was before that first match that I had, man. It is a terrifying experience. But you're right, man. Like, knowing that you can do it, that, like, you can be terrified and walk out there and still do it, like, it just, that right there was a victory. You know, it teaches you something about yourself. So, you know, I didn't mean to cut you off. But yeah, man, good. No, it is. It's terrifying. That first one, at least for me.
That's funny. Like, I think, like I said, I think competition is important. But you have to have the right mindset and you know, and extract the right lessons from it. And it's okay to be nervous. You know, it's okay to lose, which sucks.
Yeah, no one likes it. Especially in front of your teammates.
Yeah, you know, it's funny. I was just reading an article about, you know, fear and competition and trying to overcome it. And, you know, you say that was one of the points in the article. I think Felipe Costa wrote it. He was talking about, you know, you don't want to lose in front of your teammates, your family, your friends, and you put a lot of pressure on that. But he say that's ridiculous. Don't apologize to your teammates or anybody when you lose, because you know what? Yes, your friends, your family, your teammates, they want you to win. But if you lose, so be it. They're going to stop thinking about that about 30 seconds after that match, and they're going to go about their life.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah.
You got out there, you tried it, and I say this, you know, with the caveat that, dude, I'm struggling with it. You know what I mean? Like, I again, like you said, you know, at the beginning, that you're a terrible client because you don't take your own advice. Dude, I fall right into that. Because conceptually, I can see all these ideas, and I'm going to talk to you like I know what I'm fucking talking about, but I'm struggling with it. Like, so, you know, for example, so I got promoted to black belt in February, and then I went and did my first tournament in April at the Vegas Open at black belt, and that dude raped me.
Point rapage. That's
fucking point raped me, dude. He just toyed with me. And when it was so him, and I remember just laying there on bottom half guard, because it's what the guy was doing. We would get the half guard, he would pass, get his points, and then he would let me put him back in half guard, pass, get his points. And about the third time in, I was like, motherfucker, he is just doing this to get it. And I didn't have an answer for it. Even though I could clearly see what he was doing, I was just getting manhandled. And I remember at one time, I just laid there limp, just like frustrated. And Kevin's like, yelling instructions to me. He's like, you got to do something. I was like, what the fuck you think I'm trying to do? Like, it's not that I'm not trying to do the right shit, but this guy just had, he just was that much better than I was. And that fucked me up, man. Like, dude, I have nightmares about that, and I had plans competing in August at Masters Worlds after that. That was my next competition. I pushed out. I was a little banged up.
Yeah.
But let's be honest, man. Like, a hangnail would have fucking discouraged me from competing. Yeah. I kind of fucked up my knee. I probably could have pushed through and competed, but I pushed out, man, because I was fucking haunted by that. It's, again, like a couple weekends ago, there was a tournament in Denver. I had intentions of competing there. Fucked up my foot a week prior, my ankle. And the intelligent thing probably wasn't to compete.
Yeah, I will say your ankle is messed up.
Yeah, my ankle's...
So it's probably smart you didn't, but...
because if someone was to grab it, dude, I just have to tap instantly. But part of me wasn't that upset. You know what I'm saying? Like, that I got hurt and I decided that maybe the intelligent thing wasn't to compete. But again, a hangnail probably would have fucking discouraged me. So I'm struggling with it.
Yeah.
So it is, man. It's fucking brutal, dude. I don't have the answer for it,
Yeah, man, black belts in it. I remember we talked about this a little bit before, how it seems to me like, man, when you get that black belt, it's like starting all over a white belt again, like in so many different ways. But I remember that guy that you went up against, like, he'd almost been a black belt for as long as you'd been training or something like that.
No, I talked to him afterwards. I forget the dude's name. He was a head coach at like Gracie Humada in San Diego or something. Super nice guy, but he came up and asked me, like, hey, how long you been black belt? And I told him, a couple months.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, you didn't do bad. And he'd been a black belt for like 9 years or something.
Yeah.
But that's no excuse. Like,
here's the thing though, is like, you don't run into that at any other belt. You know what I mean? Outside of the rare sandbagging, outlier here and there, you don't run into someone who's been a purple belt for 9 years. You don't run into someone who's been a brown belt for 9 years. Like again, there's that outlier here and there, especially like someone who's been training hard and consistently. But as soon as you hit black belt, now you're in a bracket. Now you're in at a belt where you can literally run up against someone who's been at that level for, like you said, for as long as you've been training jiu-jitsu, period. And so it really seems to me like it's a whole nother world. Like, you almost can't, you can't use your frame of reference from competing before becoming a black belt, competing at black belt. Again, I'm not there, so I can't tell, but I'm just kind of looking at like you said, like, because I know, man, like you're really good, but I have all the faith in the world that in 9 years, if you were to go back and wrestle that match, and teleport the time travel you from 9 years in the future back and put him in for you that only had it for a couple months, I'll bet it would have been a little different. He may have still won, but I don't think it would have been the point rapage that it was. It gave you like nightmares. You know what I mean? So, like, I don't know, man. I don't know. Like I said, I've been thinking about it, but
I think about it all the time. Like I said, I don't have an intelligent answer.
Yeah.
Because I can sit here and talk about, you brought up that, early success can be great for your mindset, or it could really fuck up your jiu-jitsu, because I see that those physical attributes that will allow you to win, they will, man. If you're an athletic freak of some sort, like great endurance, wrestling, strength, flexibility, whatever, though I see it, like that'll carry you through. You can win a lot of white belt tournaments, a lot of blue belt. It starts leveling you out come purple.
Yeah.
But if you're, if you got a lot of athletic gifts, you can run through a lot of people at purple. And for what I've seen, once you hit brown and black, those athletic gifts start not to mean as much.
Yeah, if the technique's not there behind it.
The technique's not there behind it, they don't mean as much. And that's where I see like competition can be bad also, is if you're not self-aware enough to, well, why am I being successful? It's okay to enjoy being successful. It's fucking awesome, man. Get out there, win, learn.
Yeah.
That's great. But you are going to, most people are going to learn more from their defeats and their mistakes than they are from the W's.
Yeah. Where's the famous Dan Gable story? He lost one match in college, and it's like he's like, man, that's what drove me to be the freaking Dan Gable that ran through the whatever Olympics he was, where he didn't even get a point scored on, whatever. But it's like, yeah, man, you talk to high achievers, in the sports world, and they obsess about their losses way more than they bask in the glory of their wins. Like,
you forget about the wins, man.
Yeah,
you really do. Like, I've been to a lot of tournaments, a lot since I've been doing jiu-jitsu, and I've been to judo tournaments. As a kid, you did karate tournaments. Man, I remember very few of my wins, and I've won a lot of tournaments, man. I got a fucking box full of medals at home. Dude, I don't barely remember any of the matches I won. There's a few wins that are kind of stuck in there, but man, some of those losses, dude, I'm not exaggerating when I say I have nightmares about that dude fucking pointing at me, man. Like, once a week I wake up in a fucking sweat just thinking about this goddamn guy just letting me get put him back in half guard and passing. Like, I just fucking, man, it infuriates me, dude. And so they stick with you, man, and I don't. Yeah. It's again, It's kind of it's kind of cool talking about it, because like you said, talking about Dan Gable example, like, you got to use that as your motivation. When those losses, figure out why you lost, and then those days you're at home and you're about to go to practice and you're fucking tired, you don't want to go, you can justify all these other no, you remember how terrible that felt. And then you go show up to fucking practice,
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely part of the arsenal, man.
Maybe that's what, that's my answer. I got to stay my course, fucking just be disciplined, that way when you show up to compete the next time, you checked all those boxes. You trained every chance you got. You ate properly. You did your extra shit. You did everything properly. Yeah. And then that'll help with the confidence. You got to have that checklist. Because if you show up competition day and you're second guessing, well, did I train as much? How many practices did I skip out on just because I was fucking comfortable at home and just, laying down watching TV or justifying it by, I should do this, I should mow the lawn, or whatever it is. Well, yeah. Whatever excuse you come up with. Yeah, whatever, Yeah. And did you check those boxes? And you show up competition day, you check those boxes, like, I did everything I could. Yeah. So the result is what it is.
Man, that's a super important point, man. Because that's one of those, one of those habits of high achievers and really any field, is they focus on the process and not the outcome. Because that's exactly what you were just talking about. Is like, you can't control the outcome. The only thing you can control is the process going into the match. So, if you did what you needed to do training, you did what you needed to do with your mobility, your strength, your nutrition, your sleep, and you should have a process. You should have it written out, like whether it's a checklist or just whatever it is. Like, you should have, something. I would recommend, like, anywhere from at least 3, but probably no more than 7. Because, like, 7, they've done, like, there's a book called the Checklist Manifesto, where they looked at, like, what the most effective checklists have. Because if you start getting past 7 points in a checklist, it just starts to become too much. It's just. But so anyways, anywhere from like 3 to 7 things that you need to do on like a daily or a weekly basis to train. And if you're doing those things, then like you said, one, you're gonna have the confidence going in, like you did your homework, you did what you needed to do, and and you're like, that's what you're focused on. Like you said, now you can just relax and let the outcome be what it's gonna be, because you've done what you can. And I mean, honestly, you can't really control the outcome in the competition. So
you can't control your, so to speak. You can't control the outcome. All you can do is try your best.
Well, that was checklist. My last competition, I remember, or actually the last fight to win I was at. My first opponent, I was checking my brackets, and I look, and I'm looking at my purple belt bracket, and I see old boy. And I just happened to glance over at the brown black belt division, and I see his name in that too. And I'm like, oh my god! And sure enough, he had was competing up as well. Like he was one of these dudes who's like purple belt was like just falling off of him just to tatters. It's like somebody just put a brown belt on this dude already, and but yeah, man, you can't. What are you gonna do? What am I gonna do? Like that was my first match. I went on and won my next 2 matches. You know what I mean? And but like that first guy, like maybe I let him get in my head or whatever. But I mean, let's be honest, like. The guy was really good. He won some matches in the brown black belt division. So, I mean, he was like really good and much more competition experience than I had and stuff like that. So, there's nothing you can do about that, right? And so, like, if the only...
But it's hard. It gets
it's
in your
hard,
head,
man.
Dude.
It does, but if the only thing you're doing is judging yourself based on the wins and losses, it's the wrong thing. Like, you're going to you're going to focus on the wrong things because you're, like I lost to that guy. And yeah, I need to learn some lessons from it and stuff like that. But I knew I did what I could going into the tournament. I knew I gave it my best effort in the match. And so, I was able to reflect back on it. Because in the moment, you're always going to feel upset, and not happy with it. But, you can reflect back on it and feel all right versus like you're saying, like if you didn't do everything that you could have done, you weren't, dotting all those I's and crossing all those T's, and that, well, now when you're reflecting back on it, there's all these big what ifs, like, well, what if I had done this, and what if I had done that, and that's the stuff that, like, you don't want to do. That's why, like, when the coach is saying, leave it all out on the mat, like just freaking, because you don't want to get off the mat and go, what if, like, what if I had done this, and so yeah, like, focusing on the process more than the outcome, I think is like huge. But I mean, that's like jiu-jitsu too. Like goes back to the belt promotions. If you're focusing on the process, the outcomes will happen. And competition, it's fractal, buddy. Yeah. Everything small is just a representation of something big.
So then that could kind of let us shift gears. So what's your thoughts on the people who do jiu-jitsu that really have no desire to compete?
Man, honestly, I'm all right with it. I don't, I guess, I don't know, man. I mean, that's, to me, and here's the deal, and this is something we've talked about before, too. Like, there's a difference between being a good competitor and being a good martial artist. And this kind of goes back to, like, man, you can be a great competitor, especially, like, at the earlier belts, if you've got some freak attribute or you're really, really good at one thing, like you just got great triangles and their setups are freaking spot on, like, you can go pretty far with that stuff. But, what were we talking about again?
Martial artist.
Oh, yeah, martial artist. Yeah, so, but that's your... So being a great competitor, but being like, I think of jiu-jitsu, it's a martial art, right? And so you don't have to compete to be a great martial artist, and as far as like, and it's not even, martial artist is an interesting term because really it means like, martial, like, being prepared to kill, like it's a freaking self-defense thing, right? And so, to me, that's what jiu-jitsu is really about. And so, like, we talked about this last time, like we don't play points when we wrestle, we play pretend kill each other, and we don't really worry about points, and we understand them so we can use it in competition, but that's not why we do jiu-jitsu. And so in fact, to me, the people who only do jiu-jitsu to compete and are obsessed with points, they're weirder to me than the people who have no desire to compete at all. Like, so that to me is like almost missing the boat a little bit more than like I have no desire to compete. Now, like you said, I think that as a martial artist, there's lessons to be learned from competing. And even if it's just the ability to step on the mat and execute and giving yourself the confidence that you can do that in a high pressure situation, that'll help your ability to in some sort of confrontation or something like that down the road. Because again, like that's, looking at competition as a way simply to train your ability to execute under pressure. Like that's kind of part of the overall martial artist, I think, in the martial arts training. And so, but I think that you can, be really good with your jiu-jitsu and yeah, I don't necessarily, like I said, I have a hard time understanding the people who just compete and don't do it for the other reasons.
Well, I think there's nothing wrong with if you're doing it just to compete, but if that's you, I think you're missing out on so many benefits. You know, basically, and kind of what we're doing this podcast for and these conversations is all about being a better person.
Yeah.
Just being a better fucking human being. You know, being the best you can be in all aspects of your life. And Jiu-Jitsu will help you do that. It teaches you so much about yourself. So I think that really needs to be the overarching principle of all you do. And competition is really just a little part of that.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some great lessons that can be learned from it. Like you touched on just now, that one is huge as far as knowing how you are going to react under pressure. Like, because most people will go through life never experiencing those competition jitters. I mean, there's other things in your life that are going to give you the same type of jitters where you feel like, man. You feel like you don't know whether you're going to puke or shit your pants. You know, you get that weird feeling in your stomach. You got to pee all the time, like your match is coming up, and you got to run. You're running to the bathroom every 3 minutes, like.
But it's different though than like regular competition, man. Because I've run track, I've done football, and you know other sports, mountain biking, and you know, so you get those pre-competition jitters naturally. But man, there is something about grappling with another human being who's going to be right there in your face, you know, the whole time. That makes it so much so different. So like, I just kind of want to like point that out, because like, you know, if you're like, well, I've got a good competition background in, you know, something that's not a grappling sport, then, you know, no, there's a different level of ability to execute under pressure that you have to be able to do when you're grappling and in a, you know, kind of a confrontation type situation like that. So but yeah, man, no,
that's just, and really that's just one of the many lessons that you're going to get from Jiu-Jitsu. Not just Jiu-Jitsu competing, but Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu as a whole in that process.
Yeah.
And a lot of it is just being self-aware and spending time thinking about that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I keep, for some reason, that's my mind's been there a lot lately, is I try to be a self-aware person. I'm always, you know, assessing, like, how was I behaving in this situation or in this conversation and blah, blah, blah. Like, but if you don't spend time thinking about that kind of stuff, you're not going to improve. And Jiu-Jitsu is just such a great vehicle for that. Because it's going to expose your bullshit weaknesses.
Yeah.
And it's going to take them front and center for you. If you're concerned about it.
Right.
I mean, maybe not. And maybe you don't give a fuck. That's cool. But for most people that are sticking with Jiu-Jitsu, that's not the type of person you are. And so when you see those weaknesses come up, those faults, it's okay. But you just got to find that answer to them. And it's...
Yeah, no, that's a huge, that whole self-aware thing I think is really important. It's something that, I don't know, it's like, it's essential, because you have to, like I was saying, like you have to recognize, what is the voice whispering in your ear, is that your ego, or is that really you trying to learn from the situation? So like when you're thinking about your jiu-jitsu, are you like kind of feeling sorry for yourself because, you know, you're, so-and-so's been tapping me out a lot lately, and, you know, coach doesn't seem to be paying as much attention to me, and blah, blah, blah. Or are you thinking about, like, man, what am I doing? Like, okay, so-and-so's been tapping me out a lot lately with this move. Like, you know, I need to research this. I need to figure out what's going on. And you're, like, you know, running through that stuff. Another, like, you know, great Dan Gable line talking about, like, yeah, you've, you know, practiced a lot of frickin' double legs, but how many have you done in your head? You know, like how many, when you're just sitting there, how many times have you just run through the technique in your head, and that ability to just visualize and think about these things? Because I know, you know, you and I both do that, man. Like, you know, Kiele will catch me. I got like some distant look in my eye. She's like, what are you thinking about? And I was like, oh, sorry, I was just thinking about some situation with Rob and just, you know, what I was doing, whatever, and how you get out of it and stuff like that. So, yeah, you know, kind of how you're thinking about it and approaching it, and recognizing that like self-pity and things like that just really have no place in this in the sport, because it's just going to hold you back ultimately. And
well, they have a place to a certain extent as to you got to distill it down to the lessons.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, it's the emotion that, like, again, like that initial emotion isn't bad.
It's what you do with it, or how
what
far
you
let
do
it go.
with it, right? Like, does frustration turn into self-pity?
Right.
You know what I mean? So I guess, like, to me, like, I feel like kind of frustration is kind of that base emotion that people feel. And then it's like, okay, well, now you have a choice. Now, now you got a crossroads. Where are you going to go with this frustration? Are you going to, just let it go over on the road of self-pity and making excuses and stuff like that? Or are you going to, like, because that's where the gravity of the situation naturally pulls itself. That's where our brains naturally pulls our thought processes towards this self-protecting, pathway. Or are we really going to, exert the mental energy it takes to frickin' get that thing going in a different direction?
And it's not even like the self-protecting pathway; it's the ego-protecting pathway.
Right. It's the ego, right? It's not the self.
The ego's protecting itself.
Yeah, itself.
Yeah,
not you though, because you're not benefiting.
No, you're not. It's the ego is getting a little bit fucked up because you think you're ready for the next promotion or whatever, and you're not getting it, and so the ego starts coming in and is like, "Hey, you're not getting it because you don't have the best coach, or your training partners. Like, you need to be at a different gym, or you need to this or that." Your ego starts finding all these other reasons as to why you're not where you think you should be, and it starts protecting it. And that's not it, man. So we're kind of getting back to like the promotions and the frustration, but I like that because you got to remember that your jiu-jitsu journey is your journey. It's nobody else's, and everybody's path is going to be different. The time you spend at each belt is going to be different. Your competitions, your training partner, where you might move, you may have to change schools or coaches, life circumstances. But it's your journey. That's bottom line. You have to remember that, and it's your job to get the most out of it. People can help guide you, like, hey, try this, or this. But when you get right down to it, it is your journey.
Yeah.
It's your response. And maybe you don't want to take that journey. But if anybody gets to like the blue belt level, you put that time in, especially you get to purple belt level, and you quit there, you're going to be pissed off at yourself the rest of your life, dude. Like,
you will.
You quit at a fucking tremendous journey to make you a better person. You're not just, it's really cool when you're better at strangling people, man. It's fun. It's
fun.
So much fun, dude. But there's so many more lessons that get learned in that, and you got to figure that out. And if you quit or get frustrated because it's not going the way you want, it's not nobody else, man, but you.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
And I think that's like the big thing. It's kind of funny we just kind of came back to that because we were talking about the frustrations. And yeah, dude, it's your path. Like,
yeah.
That's it. Like,
I know, man. What in the Book of Five Rings, Musashi talks about that. And he's, a couple of places, and one of them he talks about like how without constant study and practice, how can you ever acknowledge yourself as your own supreme master? And I remember I read that when Pimenta was here, and around our gym we've got this famous story about me asking Pimenta about what I needed to work on with my jiu-jitsu, because we had a chance to wrestle. And Denilson Pimenta, if you don't know who he is, you should look him up. Just frickin' one of these demigods with his jiu-jitsu, just frickin' so good. And he says, I don't know. I don't pay attention to that when I roll. He's like, he didn't mean it in a bad way. He meant like, I'm focusing on myself. He's like, I'm not letting you do things. So how do I know what you need to work on and what you can do? And he had this quote, like, he followed it up with like, if everyone would just worry about themselves, everyone would get better. And it's like that's it, man. Like, if everyone would just worry about themselves, like, if you're focused on yourself and your journey, and yes, you can use other people to help you on that journey, but ultimately you have to focus on yourself. And if and again, like we talked about, like how coaching can be a selfish thing, right? So like I can focus on myself and coach people in my gym to get better, because the better training partners that I have, the better I'm going to get. So, that can still be part of me focusing on myself. But when you start focusing on everyone else or other things. Like, why isn't my coach, helping me get better? Why aren't my training partners better, like you were saying? And that's when, because he travels around, training with blue belts and purple belts, and he's training to, go against these super high level black belts that are training to choke him out. You know what I mean? Like, he's at the top of the frickin' heap, and he knows it. And that was kind of his point, is like, how can I find ways in my current situation to train and do the things I need to do to be ready for those guys, So like, I'll come in and I'll be like, I'm going to work on this today, or I'll know someone's really strong with this, so I'll let them get me in that position so I can work on getting out of it. But I look around and I figure out what can I do with my current situation, never making excuses, going like, dude, look at this school. Like, I got like just a bunch of freaking white belts and blue belts and a handful of purple belts, and this, and it's easy. It would be easy for him to make excuses because we're nowhere near his level of jiu-jitsu, and the fact that he can find ways to focus on himself and continue his journey and stuff like that. It's in those situations. I don't know. I just kind of found it like really inspiring. It was one of those talks that like really like flipped a switch in my head and got me to look at things a little bit differently. But yeah, I think it's what it comes back to, man. Like, everything that you need is already inside of you.
It's there.
It's there. It's right. That's another way like Musashi described it. Like, you're not trying to add anything to yourself. It's already there. You're trying to chip away the unessentials. You're trying to chip away the bad stuff so that only that stuff is there, and only that stuff is what you're accessing. But it's already there, right? And so ultimately, it's not up to your coach or your teammates and stuff like that to get you through this journey. It's up to you to get you through it. And so, but like I said, if everybody focuses on themselves, then everybody will get better, and you're having good training partners as part of that. So again, it's not being a dick about it. 'Cause that's what's funny.
It does. It sounds. Yeah, and people will hear that and they'll think, "Oh, that's being selfish," but it's not.
No.
Yeah, and I've had this conversation like when you're just talking about like health and nutrition, because you'll hear, everybody, if somebody comes to you and asks you about like diet advice or whatever, and they're like, "Well, I don't have time, to prepare meals like that. I got to worry about my kids. I don't have, I got to worry about my family. I don't have time to work out." No, like. You make the time for that. That way you can be the best person you can be for your loved ones. I was reading a book by, goddamn, I wish I could remember. Would have had better notes, I would have wrote it down. But he talked about that. Like, you got to be selfish in those certain things so you're not giving your loved ones a half-assed version of yourself.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing when you just carry that over into the jiu-jitsu world. Your training partners. Basically, it is. It's your journey. It's on you to make the best of it and get the most out of it. And if you do that, you're just going to be a better training partner for all your teammates.
Yep.
And that's going to make them better.
And make
them
better.
Then it's just an awesome circle, man. It just gets into everybody is just constantly getting better.
Yeah. I think that's what's cool about our gym, man. We're super lucky with we've got some really good jiu-jitsu for such a small gym and kind of in the middle of nowhere here in Grand Junction. But that's the vibe at our gym. Obviously Kevin's helped set that, like just being open to bringing other people in and being open to other styles and just being friendly with people and helping the new people come along and grow. And so we've had some people that we've seen go. I mean, dude. I mean, you've seen me. I still remember you as Purple Belt Rob at Gracie Baja, man. And I mean, you've seen me go from like a frickin' complete spaz to just like a half spaz, So it's cool to see that, but like that doesn't happen. We're talking about it's up to you to do that, but with a sport like jiu-jitsu, it's really hard to do that in a vacuum. I mean, better than anyone, man, because you've got stories about how hard you had to work to continue your journey with jiu-jitsu because like you didn't have coaches all the time. Like you do need another body. Like it's really hard to progress in this journey if you don't have good training partners and a good coach. And so or at least access to anything. And so so it is. It's like, yeah, it's two sides of the same coin. It's like you have to have both. But yeah, man, it's definitely an interesting journey. So, anyways,
I don't know, man. I think we covered that pretty good.
I think we were done, man. Yeah, you got anything else on your notes over there?
Let me see if we forgot anything.
Checking.
No, man. We more than covered everything.
Yeah, no, I think it's good. I mean, I think, just overall, just kind of keeping it all in perspective. And I think for a lot of people competing, especially like new white belts and stuff, a lot of it's just keeping it in perspective and knowing that it's all right to be nervous, it's all right to lose, and just kind of, I think for a lot of, just like my last thought on it was, for some people, you're going to have to look at it going at it in stages, right? Like your first competition, it's just, man, can I step on the mat and not completely panic out and, not worry about the That's a win right there, right? Like that's a win. So it's like scaling, like what's a win for competition, And so, and then as you progress, it's like, okay, well now can I go out and like, okay, as you get into blue belt, well, you start to develop a bit of an A game. Like you get some things. Okay, well, can I force my A game on people and execute it? And so like it kind of progresses like as you get experience and as you progress as with your jiu-jitsu and stuff like that. So it's like anything else, just keeping it in perspective and not letting it get in your head the wrong way, either seriously discouraging you or perhaps encouraging you in ways that aren't actually, beneficial for your overall jiu-jitsu journey. But, man, it's tough. I mean, it goes back to this meme I saw where it's like, jiu-jitsu is for everyone, except for after the first few months, it's only about good for half of them. And after a few years, it's only good for a few rare savages. I mean, that's about it, man. It's like we talk about this stuff and it's easy to talk about, but man, it's not easy to do.
No, it's not. So yeah, I think that screws people up too. I won't try to talk too much longer, but so you screw that. Why a lot of people quit, because people need that motivation. So they have the motivation. They train for a competition. They train for a competition. They train for a competition. Then all of a sudden, like they stop competing. So they're like, well, why am I training? Yeah. And dude, that's really discouraging when I see that. Someone just doesn't have that inner drive or motivation just to train, just because you enjoy it. It's fun. You're becoming a better person. You're hanging out with your friends. It's fun. So you don't always need to have that, training for a certain competition, because that'll peter out on people too. That'll be another reason why you'll see people quit. Yeah. Because they don't have that inner drive.
They get all motivated.
They're all motivated, and then they can stay on point with everything, and they stay disciplined in all areas of their life, and they get to and then they stop competing, and then everything just kind of goes to shit. Yeah. And then that starts tying into, like we've mentioned before, and we're going to mention a million fucking times, is how you do anything is how you do everything. Yeah. Just because you don't have a competition in the near future, that doesn't mean just go off the rails and eat like shit and be lazy. No, man, just stay the course all the time.
Yeah, and it's been part of like your lifestyle.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Jiu-Jitsu is that journey. It's that lifestyle. Yeah. And competitions or promotions, they're all just little parts of the journey. Yeah. They're little peaks and valleys. Like, oh, cool, a little win here, a little loss here, but they're all on just that path. Yeah. And that's all. They're just little exits off the highway, and you just got to get back on the highway and just keep cruising.
Keep cruising, man. Yeah. Well, there you go. So you answered your own question. You feeling more confident?
No. I'm still gonna have nightmares about that dude fucking raping me. So.
It's all right, man. It's all good. Well, I'm sure it'll pass in a few years. So.
A few years. That doesn't give me any confidence. I was hoping you're going to be like, a few months, you'll have it sorted out. Oh, no, it's a few years.
I'm confident in you. So, well, cool, man. Well, I think that's it. Anything else on your mind before we let these people go?
No, I'll put that book in the show notes. That book has been awesome. You suggested to me. Yeah. Upside to Your Dark Side. I'll put it in there. Yeah. Read it, man. That's freaking...
It's really good. It's good. Dude. I think a lot of, again, at the core of it, right? Like I think a lot of it is that we label emotions. So like you feel frustrated or angry or whatever, and we don't realize that it's just like this internal like radar going off, alerting us that like, hey, something's wrong. You just need to figure out what's wrong and how to fix it. And so, yeah, like it's really good. Like getting your mindset right. Like I think people feel like they shouldn't feel this way, or they don't realize like why they're feeling this way. So yeah, for me, it was a really good book. I'm glad you're liking it too, man.
I'm really digging it.
Yeah, we'll probably talk about it more. We might even do a podcast where we kind of dig into some of the stuff in it. But yeah, well, cool. Yeah, we'll get that on the show notes. And again, you can find us on Podbean. You can find us on iTunes. Leave us a comment or review if you don't mind. Definitely helps things out. And
keep an eye out for stuff. We're recording some things today.
Recording some videos. Yeah, we're gonna get multimedia here and start doing some Grumpy Guy BJJ little videos, some drills, and exercises and stuff. So yeah, we talk about a lot of stuff. So we'll show you guys some of what we're talking about with it. So we're gonna go film some stuff right now. But yeah, we'll get together next week. And do we know what we're talking about next week?
No.
All right.
We don't know what we're talking about, but we will be here every week.
We will be here.
This is important to me, like consistent.
Oh yeah, no. We'll
it
be
might
here
change
next
though.
week.
I was going to tell you, it might change because right now we've been recording on Thursdays. Today's Friday.
Yeah.
Due to Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Yesterday, that might change. My schedule might change next week.
Yeah, that's fine.
We might have to start doing Fridays or something, but
we
will be.
No,
here
we'll do it. Yep.
Giving everybody an ear beating every week
every
consistently.
week.
It may not be great, but we will be here every week.
That's right.
So
I could be wrong, but I think that we cut down on the nose pretty significantly.
Oh, I'm sure there was something else.
I'm sure there is, man. But
I will.
That last episode, I thought we were going to set a fucking world record for. So, anyways, we are trying to get better, folks. Is the take home message here? So we're paying attention to ourselves and trying to improve.
It's a process, just like we talked about. It's a process. Just keep showing up, man. Just keep showing up.
So yeah. So anyways, yeah. No, we appreciate the support, everybody, and yeah. You got any questions or comments for us? You can find us at grumpyguybjj.com and grumpyguybjj at gmail.com. Yeah.
If you go to
Twitter,
Instagram, Facebook, type in Grumpy Guy BJJ. It's all in the early stages. There's not a
still
whole lot
getting
there
it going.
Yet, but it's there.
It's there. So
and if you guys want to get a hold of us or berate us or compliment us, either way.
That's right. And remember, if you're ever in Grand Junction, you got a place to train, hit us up and we'll get you in. So well, cool, Rob. It's fun once again. We'll go film some videos and we'll talk to everybody next time.
See you.